The Emperor's Old Guard Austerlitz, the Son of Victory. Chapter 1. December 1st, 1805, the night before. The cold cut through everything. It slipped beneath coats, crept through boots, and settled deep inside a man's bones. Grenadier Pierre Delatour of the Imperial Guard stood on a low rise overlooking the dark Moravian countryside. Snow lay in patches across the fields, glistening beneath a pale moon. Frost coated the grass. Each breath emerged as a cloud of white mist. Far beyond the darkness, thousands of enemy campfires flickered across the horizon. The Russians and Austrians were there, waiting. Tomorrow would decide the campaign. Pierre pulled his bearskin cap lower and rubbed his gloved hands together. At 41 years old, he was among the oldest men in his company. Most soldiers in Europe considered 40 old. Most soldiers never reached 40. The Guard was different. The Emperor's Old Guard was filled with veterans, men who had marched across Italy, men who had crossed the deserts of Egypt, men who had survived enough battles to earn a place beside Napoleon himself. They were known throughout Europe. The enemy called them the Immortals. The soldiers of France called them the grognards, the grumblers, because no matter how loyal they were to Napoleon, they complained constantly, especially about food, especially about the cold, especially about marching. Pierre smiled at the thought. The Emperor himself often laughed at their complaints. He knew that when the fighting started, there were no better soldiers in Europe. Behind him came the smell of stew. One of the younger guardsmen waved him over. "Pierre, stop staring at the Russians and come eat." "Can I shoot one first?" Laughter erupted around the fire. The small group sat beneath a stand of bare winter trees. A blackened cooking pot hung above the flames. Dinner was simple: salted beef, hard bread, a handful of onions acquired from a nearby village, a little wine mixed with water. Nothing luxurious, but after weeks of marching, it tasted magnificent. Pierre accepted a wooden bowl. Steam rose into the freezing air. The men ate greedily. No one knew when the next proper meal would arrive. A veteran named Jacques tore off a piece of bread. "Tomorrow we'll be eating Russian supplies." Another guard laughed. "Or Austrian supplies. Or neither, if we're dead." That brought more laughter. Soldiers joked about death because the alternative was thinking about it. The conversation soon turned toward the Emperor, as it always did. Rumors had spread through the army all day. Napoleon had deliberately abandoned the Pratzen Heights, the highest ground on the battlefield. Many officers considered it madness. Pierre knew better. Whenever Napoleon appeared weakest, he was usually preparing something dangerous. The Emperor was inviting the enemy forward, tempting them. The Russians believed the French were retreating. They believed Napoleon was desperate. Tomorrow they would discover otherwise. The veterans sensed it. The Emperor had that look, the look he always had before destroying an army. Chapter 2. The Emperor's Visit. The night grew colder. The temperature dropped below freezing. Ice formed along the edges of puddles. The wind swept across the open fields. Many soldiers wrapped blankets around themselves and huddled beside campfires. Then a shout spread through the darkness. "The Emperor!" Every man rose immediately. Napoleon rode slowly along the lines. The reaction was extraordinary. Thousands of soldiers began lighting torches. Within minutes, the hills glowed with flickering orange light. Cheers rolled across the countryside. "Vive l'Empereur!" The cry echoed endlessly. Pierre stood shoulder to shoulder with his comrades. Napoleon removed his hat. For a moment, the Emperor simply looked at his army, the finest force Europe had ever seen. Pierre could not hear every word, but he heard enough. "Soldiers, I am pleased with you." The cheers intensified. Napoleon pointed toward the distant enemy positions. "The Russian army has marched to meet us." The men listened intently. "Tomorrow I shall finish this war with one thunderbolt." The Guard erupted in applause. Pierre watched Napoleon disappear into the darkness. The Emperor appeared calm, almost relaxed, as though tomorrow were already decided. Pierre had seen that confidence before, at Marengo, at other battles. Usually it meant the enemy was in terrible danger. Chapter 3. Dawn, December 2nd, 1805. The first anniversary of Napoleon's coronation as Emperor. Pierre awoke before dawn. The cold was unbearable. Ice coated his blanket. The fire had nearly died. Nearby soldiers stamped their feet and cursed the weather. Breakfast was meager. Bread, a little cheese, wine. Many men ate standing. No one wanted to sit on frozen ground. The battlefield lay hidden beneath dense fog. No, nothing could be seen beyond a few dozen yards. The world felt strangely silent. Then came the distant sound of artillery, a single gun, then another, then dozens. The battle had begun. The Allied army was moving, exactly as Napoleon had hoped. Chapter 4. The Trap. From his position near the Guard Reserve, Pierre could not see the entire battlefield. Few men could. Only Napoleon truly understood what was happening. The Russian and Austrian commanders believed the French right flank was weak. They intended to attack it. Large portions of their army marched south through the fog, away from the center, away from the Pratzen Heights, away from the position that controlled the battlefield. Napoleon watched patiently, waiting, waiting, waiting. Then the moment arrived. The fog began to lift. Golden sunlight pierced the clouds, the famous sun of Austerlitz. It illuminated the heights directly ahead. Napoleon turned to Marshal Soult. "One sharp blow, and the war is over." French infantry surged forward. Columns emerged from the mist. Drums thundered. Eagles glittered in the sunlight. The attack struck the weakened center of the Allied army. The enemy suddenly realized their mistake. The trap had closed. Too late. Far too late. Chapter 5. The Guard advances. By midday, the battlefield had become chaos. Pierre could hear constant cannon fire. Smoke covered the hills. Wounded men streamed toward the rear. Stretchers carried officers and soldiers alike. Still, the Guard waited. The Emperor held them in reserve, his final weapon, his insurance policy. Then came alarming news. The Russian Imperial Guard was counterattacking. Elite troops, veterans, the best soldiers the Tsar possessed. For a brief moment, the battle hung in the balance. Orders arrived. The Guard would advance. Pierre's heart quickened. After hours of waiting, they would finally fight. The Grenadiers formed ranks, bayonets fixed, drums beating steadily. The columns marched forward. Every step carried them deeper into smoke and thunder. The ground shook beneath artillery fire. Dead men lay everywhere, French, Russian, Austrian. The snow was stained red. Then Pierre saw them, Russian guardsmen, tall men in green uniforms advancing through the smoke. Both sides recognized each other instantly. Veteran against veteran, elite against elite. The finest soldiers in Europe. The distance closed. 50 yards, 40, 30. Present. Hundreds of muskets rose. Fire! The volley crashed like a thunderclap. Men fell from both lines. Smoke engulfed everything. The battle became a blur of noise and violence. Pierre loaded and fired again. A Russian officer fell. A French sergeant collapsed beside him. The line surged forward. Bayonets met. The fighting became hand-to-hand. Steel clashed. Men shouted, officers screamed orders. The Russian Guard fought bravely, but not even they could stop what Napoleon had set in motion, slowly, relentlessly. The French advance continued. The enemy line broke. Then it began to retreat. Soon the retreat became a rout. The battle was won. Chapter 6. The sun sets. As darkness approached, Pierre stood upon the captured heights. The battlefield stretched before him. Thousands of abandoned muskets, broken cannon, dead horses, scattered equipment, columns of prisoners marching away under guard. The Allied army had been shattered. The Third Coalition had effectively ceased to exist. Napoleon's masterpiece was complete. Around him, soldiers cheered. Some sang. Others simply sat down in exhaustion. Pierre removed his bearskin cap. The cold evening wind touched his grey hair. He looked across the battlefield and thought about all the years he had spent following the Emperor. Italy, Egypt, Marengo, and now Austerlitz, perhaps the greatest victory of them all. Nearby, campfires were already being lit. Soon there would be hot food, wine, stories, boasts, laughter, the rituals of soldiers after surviving another battle. Pierre smiled. Tomorrow the newspapers would speak of glory. The politicians would speak of strategy. The historians would speak of genius. But the men who fought there would remember other things: the bitter cold, the smell of powder smoke, the taste of hard bread, the sound of drums emerging from the fog. And the moment the winter sun rose above Austerlitz and illuminated Napoleon's greatest victory, for those who stood there, it was a sight they would remember for the rest of their lives.